Hey guys, welcome to the channel. So I got a lot of questions about scholarships and RATA, and I was eventually planning on making a video, but this might be a good time because a lot of candidates coming in fall reach out to me on LinkedIn and Instagram, and this will probably give a good guideline of what are the various funding opportunities. So what I'm going to do in this video is cover most of the things that you can do to kind of help with your finances, basically either cover tuition somehow or like earn money on the side to at least cover your living. I'm gonna make this video from my ASU experience, but this is fairly common for every other school and the structures are similar for almost all the universities in the US. I'm gonna start with like the best funding opportunities and then go to like the worst. So the first is probably getting a scholarship, because I think a scholarship, I think of it this way because for a scholarship you don't have to trade your labor, right? So it's like given to you based on your merit, which you already get during your admit. So I think undergrads mostly get, I've spoken to at least 10 undergrads, and most of them, I think 9 out of 10, all of them have had a scholarship of I think around 13 to 14,000 per USD per year. So essentially they pay, I guess, half, 50% off, roughly 50% off is given as a scholarship to undergrad. For graduate, it's a little hard. I don't know a lot of people who have scholarships, but the ones that do generally have it because they had like a 9+ GPA in their undergrad. Not necessarily 9+, so that line is not defined yet, but most of them do have 9+. I haven't seen any 8-pointers getting a scholarship. And for graduate, the scholarship is generally around 5,000. For the people I know, it could be slightly different, but 5,000. And the tuition is roughly 15,000 or 16,000. That's how much I paid in my first semester. Yeah, it's 16,000. So 16,000 minus 5,000 for every semester basically. So that's pretty good. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to work. It's because of your accomplishments in the past or your merit. So that's the best thing that you can do. And basically a scholarship is independent of the other forms. So just because you have a scholarship doesn't mean that you can not do any other things. You can still do other like part-time jobs and all. So it's like a cherry on the cake or icing on the cake. I don't know what's the expression, whatever. Also, the amount that I mentioned is for computer science. Like I paid 16,000, but somebody who had a scholarship had to pay 16,000 minus 5,000. But for other degrees, the tuition would also change and the scholarship amount might also change. For example, I think medical and architecture, all of these courses are a little higher on the tuition. So I'm not sure if they still get 5,000 or they probably get up to like 6,000, 8,000, something like that. This scholarship is generally sent along with the admit, so you don't have to separately apply for it. So if you are supposed to get it, you'll get it along with the admit letter that ASU sends you. After that, there's not much you can do, so you can't request for a scholarship from what I know. And there are a bunch of scholarships available on the website like these, but they don't really work. I don't know anybody who have gotten these scholarships. A lot of these are for citizens only. The amounts are also not that much. I'm not gonna dive too much into these scholarships, but the merit-based scholarship is fairly straightforward. You either get it or you don't get it during an admit. So I did not have it because my GPA was super low. My GPA is 8.05, but I know people who have got it. Okay, now the second best thing is getting any sort of assistantship, which is generally a research assistantship or a teaching assistantship, RA or TA. So for RATAs, universities generally waive off the tuition and also give a stipend and also give health insurance. So that's like one of the best things that you can do. So for ASU, I'm just gonna read out the benefits for teaching and research assistants associates. This is publicly available, so if you just Google RATA handbook, you'll probably get it. And if somebody's watching from any other, like going to any other university, a similar handbook will definitely be available, and the structure will also be fairly straightforward. Like RATA, generally 100% or 50% of the tuition is covered and a stipend is given. So basically, if you're appointed for 20 hours, then you get the full tuition waived off plus stipend. If you work for 10 hours, you get like half of the tuition waived off and a stipend. One question that I got was, can I do TA plus an on-campus? Depends. If your TA is 20 hours, then you can't. But if your TA is 10 hours, then you can use those other 10 hours for another on-campus job. So the rule is 20 hours. You can't work more than 20 hours on campus for international students. So it doesn't matter how you split it. Like for example, if you have a job that gives you like 5 hours of work, you can do 3 other jobs of 5 hours. Obviously, nobody generally gives 5 hours of work. It's generally either 10, 15 or 20. Mostly they'll give 20. So that's the TRA bit. Now in ASU, getting TA is very difficult because there's a centralized form which, like, again, this is also publicly available, like a TA GSA grader form which comes out like in a centralized website in ASU. The best shot is just filling that form, applying for that position, and if you get it, you get it. Emailing professors generally do not help that much until the professor is like a very senior professor, then they can actually pull strings and keep you as your TA. But generally it comes with like some volunteer work. You have to either volunteer work under them, or you have to do some thesis, or you have to do some PhD, like something or the other. There's always a catch. From the couple of faculties that I've spoken with, they either expected volunteer or they straight up said that no, it's... So TA is essentially reserved only for PhD folks or thesis students, but in some off cases, non-thesis students also get it, but that's like 1 out of 100 or maybe 1 out of 50. So the ratio is pretty low. The way of getting a TA, there is no hack. I mean, at least I don't know. I have emailed a lot of faculties. A lot of them, most of them, 90% did not respond. Some of them responded with no, it's only for like thesis and PhD students, which is again the rule. But then I know that some faculties do take non-thesis folks, but we'll have to do a course under them and then try to convince that you're good enough for TA and hope that they take you. That's pretty much it for TA. For RA, it's almost impossible. RA is almost next to impossible. I don't know anybody who's doing an RA position who's not a PhD, like PhD pursuant under that faculty. So if you're not pursuing a PhD, like thesis and PhD under that faculty, they'll probably just not give you the RA position. So I think out of this, if I have to rank RA, it's probably 1 out of 100. TA is probably 1 out of 50, 1 out of 30. That's the chances of getting RA/TA. And also, if you are not interested in doing a PhD, which I'm not, so I found out fairly quickly that RA is not going to happen. So I did not waste any time emailing the faculties and trying to get RA, because that's just not happening. Even for TA, the best that you can do and the best that I could do is I just filled the form. So for first semester, it's very hard to get, but this is my first semester, so obviously I don't have anything. But for the next semester also, the best I can do is probably just fill the form and see if something comes up. But I have very little hope out of it, because I don't want to do like a lot of like volunteer work or research work under a faculty. It's like not worth my time, so I'm not going to pursue that very strongly. The next is GSA, which ASU has like a graduate student assistantship position. So this is like an umbrella term for like teaching aid, research aid / grader and all these positions, but without any tuition waiver. So this is like slightly better than an on-campus role, because the pay is slightly better in some cases, but other than that, in some cases it will be like a stipend position. So it's GSA is like a very messy term. It can mean anything. A lot of faculties are not willing to give like tuition waivers and stuff for RA, but they are willing to give GSA position. Like it's better because in the sense that okay, you probably don't get tuition waiver, but it's slightly better. If the pay is better than an on-campus job and the work is relevant, then it's obviously better than an on-campus job. And GSA also encompasses the grader position, which grader is one of the most like chill jobs in ASU, because, and not just in ASU, I think across universities, because you just have to grade those papers. You don't have to do any like research with the like as compared to a research aid or a teaching aid. So you don't have to do a lot of work. You just have to grade the papers, and a lot of them are like auto graded on the system. So it's pretty chill. The pay is generally, from what I know, around like it could be 15 to 20. Generally 15 to 18 is the average rate. Sometimes grader positions are only for 10 hours per week, so then you need another job if you want to work like full 20 hours. So the way to get a GSA, again, it's very messy, it's very chaotic, but reaching out to professors do help in getting a GSA. But for most professors, they'll ask you to do some volunteer work. Volunteer work essentially means working for free, and then if they like you, then they'll offer you. I actually did volunteer for a faculty for like 2 weeks, but then I got an on-campus job, so I left because the on-campus role was more relevant to what I'm pursuing than what I was researching for the faculty. But the conversation was like something like I would have to volunteer for, and the volunteer amount is also not defined, so faculty can ask you to volunteer for like 1 semester. One faculty actually told me that you'll have to volunteer for 1 year and then I'll see whether I can give you or not. So I'm not doing that. So I'm not doing volunteer work for 1 year just in the hope that they'll give me a GSA. And it's not even like RAT, it's a GSA position, so it doesn't matter that much. If the faculty asks you to like volunteer for 2 to 3 months, I guess that's a fair ask. I would take that up. And some professors also ask for thesis, like basically you would have to pursue a thesis under him if you want the GSA position. So like I said, it's a very like messy, chaotic term which encompasses a lot of positions. Everything which is not RATA and not a student job in between is like a GSA position. I think GSA positions are good because for the most part they're relevant than a lot of on-campus jobs, because it's better to be like a research aide than, let's say, being a desk assistant, because you're not doing anything relevant. And secondly, because the pay is higher and the work is, I think a lot of GSA work is done online remotely, because you're working with a professor, you're working like on technical stuff, you're not working at, let's say, Subway, right? So it's not like physical labor. So that's pretty good. So these three reasons are why like GSA is a good position. And also because GSA pay can go up to like $25 to $27. That's the max I've seen. I actually know 2 people who have GSA positions in like labs which pay roughly 25 to 27. So that's pretty good. Like that, those are probably the best positions that I know right now. Like apart from RATA, those are the best positions, on campus positions that you can possibly get, but obviously it required a lot of volunteer work and also networking with people, knowing which lab is hiring right now, which professor is hiring right now, and doing volunteer work. My friend actually has a GSA position which is like $27 for 20 hours a week. So like I said, that's one of the best positions that can be pursued in ASU. If he's probably watching this, he's probably gloating about it. We make a lot of jokes about the $27 position, but that's about it. The next and the last one is on-campus jobs, which I'm currently doing and which is the easiest to get, and it's the best that you can do if you do not have, because RATs are almost impossible. GSA is also pretty difficult to get, and in some cases actually a lot of on-campus jobs can be comparable to GSA. So for example, GSA doesn't always mean that it's better than an on-campus job, because GSA can also pay like $15 and an on-campus job can also pay $20. So it depends on that, but roughly speaking, an average GSA makes more than an average on-campus, but the difference is minute. So the goal is to get like whatever you get when you are here. So it's not like cherry picking, okay, I want to be a GSA, I want to do only like research aid positions. At least that's what I did, and I thought of it that way. So first is just getting something rather than choosing what I want to do and what I want to get. So on-campus jobs are paid on hourly basis. Most employers allow 20 hours of work, but I've seen employers who allow only 10 hours or 15 hours of work, and the pay can be anything from 12 to up to 27. And I want to give like some statistic here. I would say like 90% of on-campus jobs pay from 12 to 15. 12.8 I think it's something like that is the minimum wage of Arizona. So that's the minimum. They can't pay you $6 an hour. So 12.8 roughly to 15-16 is where 90% of the on-campus jobs lie. I think 8 to 9% of the jobs will pay you $18 to $20 per hour, and 1% of the jobs will pay 20 to 27. So that's like the pay scale distribution of how difficult it is to, not essentially difficult, a lot of luck is also involved, but generally the jobs that pay 20 to 27 are like hardcore technical roles. So for example, IoT engineer or MLE engineer, whereas the 12 to 15 could be anything from a research aid, or it could be technical, or it could be non-technical, or it could be like a dining job as well. So those are all the possible positions that you can make money or basically get funded by ASU. And the order I think is justified because, like I said, scholarships are merit based, so there is no labor involved. RATAs are extremely good because they do require a lot of work from your end, but it covers your tuition, which is like 15,000, 20,000 in some cases. So that's amazing. The next is GSA, because for the most part GSAs are relevant and the pay is slightly higher on an average. And the last is getting on-campus job. And on-campus jobs are a wide spectrum. So getting a good on-campus job would probably mean something like getting technical and getting a better pay. But even if the pay is not that great and it's not technical, it at least covers the living expenses. So GSAs and on-campus jobs, they like generally cover the living expense and have something extra, and RAT obviously covers the tuition and living, and you'll probably have something extra because the stipends are also a little high. I think the list is exhaustive because whatever you do will eventually fall under one of these categories, either like a GSA or on-campus or assistantship position. And like internships don't count because like internship is something else that you're doing off campus, and then you're saving money and then like paying for your tuition. That's a separate topic altogether, but these are something that you can do living on campus and while your course is going, like part-time jobs basically. So these are all the official ways of earning money. Unofficial ways obviously are illegal and should be avoided at all cost. I don't think anybody generally does it, but I've heard stories where people have like worked at gas stations and motels and got deported, like got caught. So obviously that's like the worst thing that you can do, because if you're $55,000 worth in debt, like what's the point cribbing about $1,000 a month? Or then just it's just better not to come to the US rather than risking a $55,000 tuition for like a $1,000 per month pay. So I think that's like a terrible idea, working off campus illegally in like some, I don't know, in some shitty establishment or something. So yeah, that's the end of the video, and I'll see you in the next one.